Howard Hughes was more than just a billionaire aviator and film producer. He was also a notorious womanizer. Howard hooked up with a staggering number of women over the years, and he may also have been bisexual. Join Facts Verse as we go over all the women Howard Hughes dated or hooked up with. Ella Rice. Howard Hughes' dating life is not all that notable before his first marriage, so we'll start there. Howard Hughes' first wife was a woman named Ella Rice. They were only married for 4 years, with Howard soon setting his sights on bigger and better things, in both his career and in bed. Evelyn Brent. During Howard's first marriage, his penchant for extramarital affairs was already showing. This was before the billionaire aviator's official entrance into Hollywood in the role of a film producer. Billie Dove. After shaking Ella Rice, Howard was engaged to an actress named Billie Dove. They became an item in 1929. Jean Harlow. In 1930, Howard made his debut as a producer with the film Hell's Angels. In true producer fashion, he hooked up with the film's female lead. This was none other than Jean Harlow. Loretta Young. Howard was rumored to have had an affair with Loretta Young of The Loretta Young Show in 1931. Dorothy Jordan. Before breaking things off with Dorothy Jordan in 1932, Howard was engaged to the Love in the Rough actress for a year. Marian Marsh. Howard dated Marian Marsh around the same time he was engaged to Dorothy Jordan. Throughout the 1930s, Marian appeared in films alongside John Barrymore, Boris Karloff, and Peter Lorre. Timmie Lansing. Timmie Lansing is one of the lesser known of Howard's early Hollywood loves. However, the fact that she wasn't famous means she got the chance to see the billionaire's dark side. Howard liked to exert control over the women he became involved with, and this was much easier when those women weren't powerful public figures. Timmie was one of the many women who claimed Howard essentially held her prisoner during their relationship, which occurred over some period in 1932. Ginger Rogers. Howard Hughes liked to lure in up-and-coming debutantes with the promise of celebrity, but he also often became romantically fixated on women who were already big deals. One such woman was actress Ginger Rogers, who captivated much of Howard's attention for the duration of the 30s. Their relationship lasted from 1932 to 40, during which they were engaged. Nancy Carroll. Nancy Carroll was an actress who achieved quite a bit of fame in the 30s. She and Howard were together for a brief period during that decade. In 1937, Nancy took a now iconic photograph with Howard in the cockpit of one of his planes. A year later, the actress retired from the entertainment industry. Ida Lupino. From 1934 to 1936, Howard dated Ida Lupino. She was notable for not only being an actress, but also a writer and director. Women behind the scenes was still a rare thing today, but it was much more rare back then. One can imagine Howard had quite the hard time pushing around this history-making female figure. Katherine Hepburn. The vast majority of women that Howard Hughes had interactions with in the entertainment industry went on to disparage him and the way he treated them. But this wasn't the case for Katherine Hepburn. Howard and Katherine dated from 1935 to 38. Katherine claimed to have shared the most intense love affair of her life with him, claiming he was easily the best lover she'd ever had. Late 30s and early 40s. Howard Hughes had nondescript romantic encounters with many women during the late 30s. Let's take a look at them briefly before moving on to the 40s. The most notable was Bette Davis, whom Howard hooked up with in 1938. Other figures around that time include Philly Brooks, Barbara Hutton, France Drake, and Joan Fontaine. He also dated Olivia de Havilland and Helen Gilbert for short amounts of time around the cusp of the 40s. Lana Turner. Howard was romantically involved with Lana Turner from 1941 to 46, and they were engaged during this period. He was obsessed with the actress, but that didn't stop him from cheating. Faith Domerque. Over the course of the 40s, Howard could often be found hooking up with a lady named Faith Domerque. She was an actress signed to Howard's film studio, and she appeared in lots of films. Gloria Vanderbilt. Howard hooked up with this notable socialite and heiress in 1941. Yvonne De Carlo. Howard dated actress Yvonne De Carlo from 1943 to 46. She later became known for her role as the matriarch of the titular family on the TV series The Munsters. Ava Gardner. The same year Howard began dating Yvonne De Carlo, he also became romantically obsessed with Ava Gardner. This obsession lasted a decade, with Ava finding the billionaire hard to shake. Despite his desperate attempts, Howard never truly had Ava in his grasp. Mid-40s romantic encounters. Howard started having a lot of random romantic encounters again in the mid-40s, and the most notable was with Marilyn Monroe. Other women he had encounters with were Jane Greer, Linda Darnell, Virginia Mayo, and Jean Tierney. Howard and Linda Darnell were actually engaged for 4 months in 1945. Jean Peters. After decades of moving from woman to woman in the entertainment industry, Howard finally decided to really settle down again in the late 50s. This was with Jean Peters. Jean was an actress whom Howard helped set up with a career in 1947. A decade later, they got married. Their marriage lasted until 1971. Terry Moore. After meeting Jean Peters, but before marrying her, Howard may or may not have had another wife in the form of Terry Moore. Terry was another young actress who Howard got his hooks in during the late 40s. They met in 1948, and Howard became infatuated with her. As he always did, he ended up wooing her into a whirlwind romance. But there's more to the story. As the legend goes, Howard wed Terry on a ship in 1949, but he went on to destroy any evidence of the wedding having occurred. So it's often disputed. If Howard did truly marry Terry Moore in 1949, as many believe, then she was still his wife when he died. This also calls into question his subsequent marriage to Jean Peters. Despite the fact Howard denied their supposed marriage, he continued seeing Terry romantically until 1956. This means Howard moved right on to marrying Jean Peters. Whether the two were ever really married or not, Terry Moore certainly felt upset when Howard moved on and married Jean. But she feels good that she got the last laugh. Terry is still alive at age 94, while Howard passed away in 1976 at age 70. Not only is he gone, he ended up living the last years of his life in miserable abandon. Years after his death, Terry was awarded a settlement via the billionaire's estate that she claimed was in the realm of 8 figures. Some of the people Howard hooked up with towards the end of his Playboy years include Carla Belenda, Katherine Grayson, Susan Hayward, Phyllis Applegate, Sally Lee Conlin, and Yvonne Schubert. Katherine Grayson, Susan Hayward, and Phyllis Applegate were all figures Howard dated for a year or more, while the rest were casual hookups. Was Howard bisexual? In addition to all of these women, there were also some notable men that Howard was rumored to have had possible romantic dalliances with. These include Cary Grant and Errol Flynn. Now it's time to hear from you. Which one of these names was most surprising to hear on this list? Let us know in the comments section below.